All right, lesson 3. We have an extra subject today. It will be the last time. For the rest, there will be just single subject each class. But this is a very important subject. It's dealt with again later in lesson 12, but it's just too important to not also discuss it at the beginning of the course, because it's very much what yoga is about. The title of the handout is Dharana, Ashna and Aum. First about Aum. Hey, come on. We just started, so just in time. Get yourself a cushion. I explained a little bit about Aum last week. Aum is the vibration of the universe. It's harmonious, and actually singing Aum leads to harmony. The first time that I experienced the effect of singing Aum was not when doing yoga, but we were practicing Hapkido, physical exercise, very hard. And at the end of the class, the Korean teacher told us to sit down and close our eyes. Just in the way that we sit in meditation, he told us to close our eyes. Then he started singing Aum, telling us to sing along with him. And remarkably, the exhaustion just faded away. It was very refreshing. That is an extreme situation where you can very clearly feel the effect of something that you maybe otherwise barely notice, that it actually does have an effect. And it just appears to be something superficial. But I was very impressed at that time, sitting there for a couple of minutes singing Aum, and then just feeling the restoration of your levels of energy after a very exhausting and sweaty training. We sing Aum at the beginning of the class once. We sing Aum at the end of the class 3 times. And that is not random. There is a reason for that. We are all individuals coming from our own individual places in our own individual ways. Our vibration, therefore, is all on another level. Some person come with a car, some person come by bus, another person comes on foot. You've all had different activities during the week and this morning. So our vibrations are all different. The reason why we sit first in silence, the reason for that is actually to try to come down to the same wavelength with one another so that we can open our hearts and interact with each other. That is also the reason why you sing Aum once. By singing Aum once, you open yourself up. Singing Aum 3 times is kind of a reinforcement procedure that you go through before you go out into this harmonious world. That is the story behind the vibration of Aum. The reason why we sing 3 times, look, we start the class with 1 Aum, we open ourselves up, but you literally open yourself up. I make myself very vulnerable. I share everything with you based on the inspiration of the moment. I'm not just telling you what is written in a book or in the handouts. There are many practical anecdotes related to what I'm trying to convey, and very often they are personal stories. And I'm sharing them with you in the trust that you do not sling it back at me in some way or form to hurt me by being cynical or laughing or, you know. So I open myself up, but you also open yourself up, because I sometimes open a can of worms in my students by presenting you certain stories, situations that you then recognize and that can sometimes move you in certain ways. So we become open vessels, both sides, so that we can connect and make it work, basically. Not just on a theoretical level, but from heart to heart. So you are open. We know from the workshop, and last week I think I explained it again, that energetically we exist out of three bodies, three main bodies. There are more, but there are three main bodies. The physical body, the mental body, and because of the harmony in which we work, your spiritual body is also manifesting during the class. And this is the reason why we sing Om before we go out into the disharmonious world. To protect ourselves, we close the spiritual body with the first Om, we close the mental body with the second Om, and we close the physical body with the third Om. So that is why we sing Om. It's not just a ritual that we do for the purpose of the ritual, but there is really a story behind it, a reason behind it. So ideally, you sing Om together with me. When we start, when we finish. It's really not so difficult. But Om is a vibration that does not come from the vocal cords, but it comes from deep inside your belly. Listen to the difference. If I sing Om from my throat, it will probably give you goosebumps, not in a good way, but in a bad way, like somebody singing false or something. Om. That comes from high up in my body. I just let the air out of my lungs and vibrating through my vocal cords, and it's very disharmonious. But if I let it come from my belly, it has a totally different quality. It's really not that difficult. Just try it out, don't be shy. Everybody's Om sounds different, so it doesn't have to sound like me. My Om also sometimes sounds different depending on the level of energy that I'm at. Sometimes it's a little bit higher, sometimes a little bit deeper. So do not worry too much about how it comes out, just enjoy singing it. Ajna Chakra, that is the main subject basically of this handout. Now, we have three main bodies, but there are sub-bodies. The body exists. The energetic anatomy of the physical body is in energy, spheres of energy, energy balls, and we call them chakras. And most people who have practiced yoga or have an interest in yoga have at least heard something about chakras. What are chakras? Do they exist? You can't touch them. You can't smell them, you can't see them, at least not with your bare eye. So if you're skeptical, you say, well, what is that? It doesn't exist, it's just a fantasy. But they have real practical functions. We will start discussing them in detail starting from lesson 13. It's very interesting because it helps you to understand how you function based on emotions, desires, lower emotions and desires, higher emotions and desires. But very important, look, the physical body is basically this part. So the physical body has then 5 sub-bodies, which we can also divide into. The lower 3 chakras are our lower emotions and desires. Our instinct to survive is located there. Most people function here. Above the diaphragm, because it's approximately here, above the diaphragm you have the 2 chakras where higher emotions and desires are located. Love, compassion, creative artistry. Now, there is, in some circles in yoga, there is the misunderstanding that when you meditate, you must meditate on the lower chakras and work your way up from the bottom upwards. But because there are all lower emotions and desires and higher emotions and desires related to those chakras, if you energize them, if you give them more food, more fuel during your meditation without control, without a control tool, it can lead to anxiety or increased sexuality. Ego and ambition are located here. But it can also make you very emotional in a positive way. Compassion, empathy, which can also bounce back on you. We will talk about that later. Have a lump in your throat because you feel things that you then can't express. It can be very overwhelming. Ajna chakra is the 6th chakra, is this one. And this story is about Ajna chakra. This is why meditation is an indivisible part of yoga. You sometimes see advertisements where they promote yoga plus meditation. That is not correct, because yoga inherently is meditation. Meditation is inherently part of yoga. You see a little anecdote there of Sri Aurobindo Ghosh, a rebel yogi in the previous century who fought against the British in a yogi way, not with weapons, but with protests and speaking out. He was thrown in jail because of that by the colonizers. Being rebellious is something that most yogis do develop because you become more and more a person of your own, with an own opinion, and that opinion only becomes stronger. That's not the point, of course, but one important thing that Sri Aurobindo Ghosh also proclaimed is it is wrong to start at the bottom. Meditation doesn't start at the bottom. If you focus on one chakra while neglecting the others in your meditation session of the day, you increase disharmony. Yoga is designed to create harmony. You can create harmony in one chakra by focusing on one chakra, but then causing an imbalance because the other chakras are not taken up in the process. And that is why it is important to start with Ajna Chakra. Meditation starts with Ajna Chakra. And when there is a sympathy phenomenon that tells us, let's say this is Ajna Chakra. Within Ajna Chakra, you have the throat chakra. Within the throat chakra, you have the heart chakra. Within the heart chakra lies Manipura chakra, at the level of the diaphragm, a little bit lower. Then you have Svadhisthana chakra, which is at the level of the bladder. And then at the root of the tail, you have Muladhara chakra. Ajna chakra is the outer circle, the mental body. If you practice meditation correctly, you do that through mental activity. Not just mental activity, controlled mental activity, concentration. When you concentrate on Ajna chakra, all the chakras within that sphere harmonize equally. And that is why Sri Aurobindo Ghosh insisted that meditation has to start with concentration in Ajna chakra with mind control. In that way, all the lower chakras are evenly and equally stimulated, creating a harmony among the chakras and within the chakras. Not only that, because you work from Ajna chakra, the mental body, it leads to more awareness, more consciousness. So if there are any eruptions of lower or higher emotions that can actually put you in trouble because they're too strong or too overwhelming, because they sometimes are accompanied by past trauma or other memories, good or bad, working with Ajna chakra helps you to rationalize that and canalize that disruption that comes with it. So for this reason, we never actually focus on lower chakras. All the work is done in Ajna chakra, and that pulls along all the lower chakras. That harmony then leads to the opening up of the crown chakra. We talked about that a little bit already. Also, the crown chakra is the location of our royal characteristics or higher characteristics, which are not a luxury. They're actually practically very helpful. It really improves the quality of the human being, or you can say that it civilizes people. It gives people the quality of heart. So that about Ajna chakra. Ajna chakra also, you see on the first page a little bit towards the bottom, that Ajna chakra actually functions differently depending on the condition that it is in. When there is harmony in Ajna chakra, which occurs when you concentrate, meditate, observation and reflection open up the universal source of wisdom and knowledge. The sixth sense starts to function. Why is the sixth sense called the sixth sense? It is the sense above our physical senses. Smell, touch, hearing, seeing, and taste. And taste. Those are the five, what we call gross senses. The sixth sense allows you to perceive, to observe and to perceive phenomena that are not gross. Energy, vibration. Sometimes people feel the presence of spirits or ghosts. That is the result of a higher level of sensitivity compared to other people who are totally not aware of those energies surrounding them. That is the work of the sixth sense. People who function on the sixth sense often have the problem that people don't believe them or laugh at them, because you perceive things that other people cannot perceive with their 5 gross senses. The brain, let me clear the board first. We live in a world now that is very rational. And that is because of human beings being subjected to 2 decades of compulsory education, which develops the mental body to a very high extent. That's not a bad thing, but there is no balance there. And what is happening? This is the brain, and the brain is divided into 2 major parts. The part at the back is called cerebellum. That is Latin, the medical term. Small parts, or the small lump of the brain. And the big part, the big lump of the brain, is cerebrum. This is where the word cerebral comes from. Most people think that the brain is just one lump. But this distinction is very important, because all those years of education draw all the energy in Ajna Chakra to the cerebrum. The cerebrum is the part where you rationalize, where you theorize. But energy is limited. So if you draw all the energy to the cerebrum through all those years of study and education, there's very little energy in the cerebellum. The cerebellum is the location of intuition. It's the location where you perceive subtle phenomena. That is why educated people are very skeptical. Scientists are very skeptical. If you can't see, hear, feel, touch, or smell it, taste it, it doesn't exist. That is often the reasoning. Ancient people, so this is the modern human being, top heavy in the cerebrum, very cerebral. Ancient people without any education at all, they had most of their energy here. But very little here. We consider those people dumb, because they have no rationality. They have no logical thought. What they do have is a very strong intuition. They're very connected with nature. They're very connected with energetic phenomena. But the problem is they can't rationalize it. And that is where superstition comes from. In Korea, all the generations, if you look at the older generations in Korea, I've met many of the older generation in the 26 years that I've been here. They always talk about energetic phenomena, about spirits, about ghosts, about things that we as rational or cerebral people dismiss as superstition. But ancient people were very connected with nature. We have become disconnected with nature to such an extent that we just destroy it. The ideal situation is, of course, that the energy is divided, that you can use both in equal amounts. That is where genius occurs. A scientist who is very theoretic has all their energy here. They have studied a lot, they've memorized a lot, they can repeat what they did, but they find it very hard to think out of the box. They find it very hard to develop new insights, leave alone revolutionary insights. But a scientist who has energy in the cerebellum also combines hypersensitivity, intuition, which leads to deep insight, contemplation, the power of contemplation, in combination with a highly developed intellect. It leads to inspiration. Do you know where the word inspiration comes from? It comes from the Latin phrase of in spiritus. And it literally means in the spirit. The seventh chakra. Same with the word genius. The word genius, it seems to be an English word, but it comes from the Middle East. Genie, a genie in a bottle. It's a ghost, it's a spirit. Directly referring again to the seventh chakra. A scientist that does not possess the genius or the inspiration merely repeats what they studied. A scientist with the benefit of the cerebellum possesses inspiration, becomes a genius, has the ability to think out of the box. It is those people that are responsible for the great inventions throughout history and still today. Revolutionary inventions that nobody else ever thought of before. As a yoga teacher, I have a huge advantage that you have already been educated. Yoga originally is a form of education. To train people, to civilize people, to help people develop intellect. But that takes many years of training before you can actually focus on the spiritual aspect of yoga. We can skip that whole stage and focus on the spiritual aspect, because the foundation has already been laid by your governments, our governments. And all we have to do now, we have gone so high on a mental level, intellectually, all we have to do is come down a little bit, and that happens when you stand still in your asana, and that happens when you sit on your cushion in silence and meditate, observe. And that is where you have your insights, and they just come just like that. Now about meditation, of course. Yoga exists out of 8 limbs. The 6th, the 7th, and the 8th is dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. Together, this constitutes meditation. Many yoga teachers will make you believe that dharana is something that you can do, and that dhyana is something that you can do, and that samadhi is something that you can do as a technique. Of course, you have to do the work, but these 3 are the natural consequence, the natural result of the work that you did before that. Observing the yamas and niyamas, asana practice in a correct way, leading to more harmony, and therefore calm in the mind, mental calm occurs as a result. And pratyahara, the 5th limb of yoga, just before you start with meditation, is detachment. Detachment from all the impressions that you are subjected to that distract you. So you cut out all the clutter, and then you sit down on your cushion in silence. And you do have to work in dharana. Dharana means concentration, one pointed focus. So you sit there on your cushion, a ball of energy that is vibrating, and you notice there is movement, there is restlessness, there are thoughts, there are feelings, there are memories. Now, observation is not meditation, but it is important that you start with awareness of what's going on in and around you. So you always start with observation. But then, at some point, you have to take the bull by the horns and actually start to work. That is where dharana starts. Concentration, one pointed focus. Mind control. How does it work? You concentrate on the center of your head. If you find it very difficult to concentrate on the center of your head, you focus on the point between your eyebrows. And to help you do that, with one finger you push hard, and you concentrate on that impression that you feel, physical feeling. Now, I hope that you noticed last week when we sat there for 10 minutes with our eyes closed, I hope that you noticed that there is something in and around your head. It's called, what is in and around your head is called nada. Now I know there are some Spanish-speaking people in this room, and nada means nothing. But this is Sanskrit. And the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, which we are going to read at some point, in chapter 1 mentions nada multiple times. And yet, most yoga teachers that you talk with, if you talk about yoga with yoga teachers and you ask about nada, they've never heard of it. Which means they've not read or studied one of the most consequential books of yoga. Nada is also referred to as the inner sound. Is also referred to as the mysterious sound. Nada is a high-pitched buzz that you hear, especially when you're very tired. You know, you go to the gym, you work out, you sweat. What do you see people do who have finished with their workout? Before they go to the locker room and take a shower, they sit down somewhere on a bench, hands on their knees, just breathing and staring at nothing. And if you ask them, what are you doing? They say, what? I'm buzzing out. The workout makes you tired. That vibration becomes stronger when you're tired. That is called nada. It's a high-pitched buzz, a beep sound, a ringing in your ears. You can also describe it as a ringing in the ears. Do you hear that sound? Yeah. Do you hear that? Sometimes? At least you recognize it, right? Okay. That is going to become your point of focus. When I was taught about nada the first time by my teacher Ajita in Amsterdam, first I thought, what is he talking about? But then when I reflected on it a little bit, I realized that I've been listening to it all my life. In Amsterdam, every district has its own indoor and outdoor swimming pool, and we have 6 weeks holiday in the summer, and rain or shine, you go to the swimming pool. Especially when the weather is nice, the sun is shining on your skin, you dive into the cold water, you play, you fool around, and then you lie down on your towel, and you close your eyes. You have that chill from the water, but you feel the warmth of the sun. You feel the wind blowing. You hear the chatter and the laughter of the people enjoying being in the pool. And you hear nada. You hear nada when you're daydreaming. Daydreaming, many teachers punish their students when they are staring out the window while the teacher tries to explain something, because they think you're not paying attention. You know what? The opposite is true. Children that are daydreaming, they soak up every little detail of what the teacher is actually telling. They're just not looking at the teacher. They're soaking it up, and they build their fantasies, and they develop actually a very deep insight into what the teacher is teaching. So children and adults, as adults, we lose the ability to daydream. Most of us. Bring it back. That is where you naturally contemplate. That is where you connect with your deeper self, and you develop insight in what you want to do in life, where you want to go next, where problems stop being problems, basically. So very valuable, daydreaming. You're buzzing out. Nada. But in an uncontrolled way, so it doesn't occur that often. Just only when the circumstances are right, it will allow you to contemplate like that. Yoga practice leads to more and more being in that condition where you contemplate. And you do it while you cook in the kitchen, while you ride the subway or the bus, or even while driving. It's not a distraction. You're actually more focused. But in the meantime, you have amazing insights as a result. How do you do this in a controlled way? Because that is what concentration meditation is about. First, of course, there has to be the sound of nada, which I think, after this explanation, you will easily detect when we sit down on our cushion. You may hear it during the asana, where you're standing still, and sometimes you just close your eyes and kind of allow yourself to be engulfed. If you pay attention, nada is there. A human being, at the workshop I explained that the human being is like a house in Siberia. It's a little bit the same idea. We waste a lot of energy, valuable energy, not by physical labor, physical activity, but by mental activity. We have lots of thoughts. We have lots of feelings that lead to thoughts. A thought is pure energy, and when that goes out, it's wasting precious energy. Energy is our most precious asset. The more you have of it, the healthier you are, the better you function, the less sick you get, etc. When you close your eyes and you don't take control, you can actually see that there are all kinds of thoughts and activities, mental activities. People who don't meditate, they are not aware of this because it's subconscious. But because you start with observation, you close your eyes in silence, you start becoming increasingly aware of this activity. And now, your task is to stop that activity, or at least lower the intensity of that. And that is where dharana starts. Mind control means that the first step is that you are aware of the distraction, the thought. If something is other than nada, you're not supposed to go there. That is mind control. So you concentrate on nada, but a thought comes. You're not supposed to go there. So you bend that thought back. You say, no, 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 I don't want to go there. And you bring your attention back to nada. 2 seconds later, 3 seconds later, already the next distraction comes. And you say, no, 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 I don't want to go there. No matter how interesting this thought is, not now, nada. And you do that again and again. And that is dharana. When the intervals between the distraction becomes bigger and bigger, you can consider it to be dhyana, which is actual meditation. According to Patanjali, the intervals have to be at least 11 seconds each before another distraction occurs. Only 11 seconds, you would think, seems like almost nothing. But that is quite an achievement if you can get to the level where you have repetitive moments of 11 seconds of silence before another interruption comes. Technically, it is considered to be actual meditation, dhyana. Which then naturally leads to the next condition, samadhi, because samadhi is a condition. A condition that is only possible when you are in a relatively meditative state. And that is where you start to practice science in a natural way. That is how the ancient people practiced science. Sheer contemplation. That is how they developed insight in the universe, how they developed insight into atomic structure, and how they developed insight in everything else about life. So this is what we do when we close our eyes, but in a gentle way. It always starts with observation, and then you slowly start to bend it towards concentration, mind control. But keeping in mind, of course, the yamas that you learn, especially non-violence. Remember also, I told you something about meditation, that many yoga teachers, including mine, make people believe that meditation is not successful unless you're completely thoughtless. That is simply not true. If you learn meditation with that idea, you always feel like a failure, because the mind is always active. The question is only here, how active is it? And how controlled is that activity? A meditation starts when you are aware of the distractions and are able to bring it back to nada. And then if you persist and do that regularly, those intervals become longer and longer. The silence, the quiet, the calm in the mind becomes more and more deep as a result. The mind is like a physical body. Anybody who exercises knows, even if you exercise for 10 years without an interval, without any break, you're in a super condition. If you don't exercise for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you already feel your condition deteriorating. It's the same with the mind. If you don't practice regularly, it's difficult to reach higher levels of meditation. But if you condition the mind by regular meditation, fairly regular, a couple of times a week at least, preferably, of course, every day, ideally, but then you condition the mind and you become much more capable of staying focused, allowing less and less distractions and interruptions. Questions? Okay.